live.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live. I don't, man, there's already like 28 people in here, and so I don't even know. I'm not even gonna get into the people who are here. Let's get the audio down right. How's everybody looking? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear Tommy okay?
Well, hopefully you guys can hear me all right.
You're a little hard for me to understand, but I can kind of grasp what you're saying. I hear me echoing on your side. Is there another device with me on it, with us on it?
Yeah, it's where I'm reading the chat.
Okay, yeah, if you can turn that down. And let me get some better light on too. Hang on. Say hey to everybody. Everybody's here, Tommy.
Yeah, I see that.
Oh, that's right. You just said that.
Yeah, I just told you that.
Honey, I'm going on with Tommy now.
Yeah, what did he do? Step away from the phone? Yes, I did. Robin, I didn't get that message. Somehow it messed up. If you reset it, I'll get it. Where did he go? I don't know. Hello, I guess it's just me then. Y'all can hear me okay, right?
Alright, y'all, come back. Here I come. God, this is so sloppy. I'm so sorry, Tommy.
Oh no, it's alright. I wish my phone would have been working right. I have to keep it on the charger right now. It's something to reconnect with it, so I wish it
Yeah,
was
that
working.
it's hard to hear. It's a little hard to hear. But what we'll do is we'll slow it down a little bit and just chit chat. Let me see if I can get myself set up a little better. All right, okay, all right, here we go. Okay, so I just want to start out by saying, oh my God, that's the ceiling. No, that's not it. I want to start out by saying that, I was watching the video, the one that started this whole thing between me and you about, the caravan or whatever, where you were, talking about, there were Bible verses, there were implications about going out and helping another person, and they were like, you were talking about, Heaven's Gate is wide open to Mexicans, and then there were also times where it seemed like you were implying that we were literally being invaded by, these terrible people. And so I wanted to be able to give you a chance to just clarify what your thoughts were on that before I get into what my reactions were on that. And then also, I know you had definitely you had sort of you were trying to get somewhere with what you were obviously talking about as far as how it relates to God and everything else. So because the phone's the way it is, we both got to kind of be as not on top of each other as possible. So I want to have you lay it all out for me and for everybody, and then I'm going to help listen and help just make sure I hear everything correctly, and then I'll react, and then you can react, and we'll go so on and so forth, if that's cool with you.
Right.
All right, go ahead. So I'm clear. You're good. You're all you.
Alright, well, the thing about the thing with the border, if you noticed, what I was trying to explain to you is what they were doing. They were trying to. They have their own agenda. The government has their own agenda at the time, and it's like what the Bible said. There's a lot of controversy, and they're using this for political gain for their own. and it shouldn't be doing that. It's dividing people up in this country. It is dividing their thoughts. It is causing people to be divided completely on what should be done and what needs to be done and all of that. And I was just bringing the point up that, we need to keep an eye on things that are going on because, there is so much going on in this world now that I don't know how to explain it. I'm not that much prepared for that part of it. But, the main thing about it is that we shouldn't be fighting against each other on this, for one, and we should be united as a country. But they are dividing us up just the same as they are with other countries and what they're doing in other places.
Shoot, man. All right, so all right, let me just say, I can understand about 80% of what you're saying, but that means I'm inferring a lot of what you're saying. Like 20% inference is not a good rate for my ears, because then I'm not getting the full story. So I might have to back you up a little bit and then have you repeat some things. My bad on that, but just so we're clear on things. Obviously you don't want to be divided from your neighbor, and that's part of what you're saying. I think both of
Right.
us are saying that. But you played a video by Jesse Waters of Fox News, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like opinion stuff. He has no more credibility than I do or you on this whole thing, and that's just opinion stuff. And it's okay for them to have their opinions, and that's fine. But for their opinions, if you look at that interview, for instance, he's asking a woman who is an investigative reporter who should have, audio of people saying the things she's saying they're saying. She should have video. She doesn't have any of that. So it's really even just her opinion. And it did exactly what you were doing was what it appeared to me was you were saying that this is this huge news story and that we should ignore the pipe bomber, distraction. I think your quote was he was trying to send pipe bombs to, some people. But, he was sending those pipe bombs to the last two presidents. I'm sorry, the last two Democratic presidents of the United States, the last Democratic Secretary of State of the United States after John Kerry. He sent them to a lot of people who were actually in government. They weren't just random people. Like there was a method to his madness. So to conflate, the story about the pipe bombers, which was absolutely real, what he did, to the possibility of people invading our borders, to me, was to buy into the political rhetoric. Um, Nobody should try to hurt anyone with a weapon, period. And that dude did. And then these people who are coming here to seek asylum haven't hurt anybody. They are not, you called them illegal immigrants in your video. They're not illegal until they try to cross the border illegally, and then shit, then that's on them. But if there's, by the way, just so you know, Donald Trump removed two processes by which people in Central America could apply for asylum from the country that they are in, from their origin country. He's taken that away. And so now you have to come to our border and you have to ask at a port of entry for asylum in order to seek asylum if you're from that area of the world. So they can no longer, and that was probably not a bad thing. You know what I mean? He's not allowing people to apply for asylum online because you can hide your identity and all that other shit. He's saying you have to show up and present yourself and your case at our borders in the right place, and then you can apply for asylum. And you know, who doesn't want that, right? Who doesn't want people showing up and showing us your face and saying this is who I am and coming in the right way? That's what we're asking for. So I believe that in the rhetoric channel that you got stumbled upon, you might have missed the point, which was they are coming here by the most legal means the United States has offered them, which is to apply for asylum at the border.
All right.
So that's what that is. All right, so the rest of the story is about Jesus.
The rest of the story is you kind of got me a little lost on that one. Talk about not understanding. I didn't quite catch everything on that, and don't just quite clear on that exactly. Sure, what you're asking me.
Yeah, the thing is, I can't understand what you're saying. And I wonder if I plug in. Hold on, let's see. Hold on. Maybe if I plug these in. Oh, you know what? Shit. No, they're not. That's the. Never mind. Hang on. Here we go. Let's try this. Let me see if this helps. All right, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, just gotta turn it up a little bit. Oh, that's all of it. All right, like say what's up. Are you there, man?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, I can hear you a little better. Can y'all
All
hear?
right, good.
Let's see if they can hear you a little better. I'm afraid to allow the chat on for what it's
Can
going.
y'all hear me right on there?
Let's see, here we go. Boom. Yeah.
But there's a really good
Hey,
point.
hey, just so you know, No Mo Fakers doesn't care if we can hear. He don't give one. Hey, Tommy, I saw a chart today, and it was the amount of fucks left in our entire country. Um, all of our fucks were spent last year. We are now borrowing fucks from countries like China and the Netherlands. So any of the fucks that we have right now are putting us in fuck debt. And yeah, because nobody has a fuck left to give. I don't got any more fucks. You don't apparently have any more. None of us have any more real fucks left in our account. I've given up all of my fucks. And
for losing any kind of faith in the government because the government is on their own agenda, and all it is propaganda for means to
win elections.
Win elections.
There you go.
Ultimately, just make the rich richer.
There you go. I think we agree. I think we agree about this.
Yes, they're not worried so much about the people here, and they're more worried about sending all of this money out to help other countries, and yet we are getting further and further in debt, and yet we have people here in our own country that are homeless, hungry, in medical need and everything.
Yeah. And I just want you to know that the refugee resettlement program allows for $1.8 billion a year to be spent on resettling refugees. And last year, we spent 560 some odd million resettling refugees. We spent $2.5 billion splitting families up this last year. Splitting, leaving kids here and separating, the kids from the moms. Remember that whole program? We spent more than double the amount that we would have spent just resettling them. So, we got that money is already set aside to resettle the refugees anyway. Trump dialed it back from 5,000 to 1,500. That's fine. But we need to go through the process to try to resettle those 1,500 without spending more money than we would just resettling them by inconveniencing them. You know what I mean? Like it can be more than an inconvenience because some kids will never be reunited with their families. But and that will cause even more pain in their life, and who knows what repercussions down the road. But it is expensive to do that to try to scare people from coming when all they are asking for is a chance. Now, if they try to come over illegally, that's a different story. I'm talking about the people who are coming over legally and asking for a chance. They legally have a right to do that. And they could normally apply for asylum from their home country, but they can't now because of an executive order signed by Donald Trump.
Right. And how was it that he was able to get this passed? He was
Well,
able
it's
to
an
get it passed.
executive order, so he just writes it and signs his name and it goes right through. And he did it in time so that when this new caravan came up, it was perfectly timed out for the election. I mean, you haven't heard much of anything about it since the election. By the time they get here, it'll be a couple thousand people. For the most part, they're going to go through the process. It isn't going to mean anything. We'll forget about them unless they get separated. I guess if they continue to do that, we're going to keep paying attention. But it really was just a political commercial, is all that really was. That's what I want you to know.
In order to get his wall built that he wanted built. And for one, you have a country that is in trouble because of all the people that are causing trouble there, all the violence and the crime and everything that is there, and they are fleeing from them. And these people that are fleeing from them are offered asylum in Mexico and refused it, and are keep coming this way.
Yeah, man, because Mexico has three of the top five highest crime rate cities in the world. You
And why
know,
are they leaving a country that has caused them so much grief and so much trouble to come to a country to be free, but yet they're still proudly carrying their flag from their country.
all right, I can explain that. They carry their flag from their country, so as along the way they can be sure to identify with people who pick them up along the way. In other words, people who see them along the way need to know where the El Salvadorans are, where the Hondurans are, and so on and so forth. Like how people might want to know where the Alabamans are and the Minnesotans are. When they did that story on when you played that story on your channel, she was talking about how they put the women and children up front and the older people up front, and they
Mm-hmm.
do that so that they don't outpace them. They women and children and older people can lag behind and get lost, so they keep them up front and they walk at their pace.
Right.
Man, by the time this
But
thing gets here, it's going to be half the size it was. Nobody's going to will walk up to the fucking. Oh, by the way, that woman in your video said that the MS-13 was coming here to get jobs. What other time have you ever heard of a gang talking about we're coming to get some jobs? We're going to come up in there and get all y'all's goddamn jobs. That just doesn't happen. She could have shown video of them saying that and been much more effective, but she had no video, no audio, no nothing. And Jesse Waters is a political commentator, man. That's a pundit. When you look that up, look up Jesse Waters, it says political pundit. Like Anderson Cooper, for instance, is a journalist. So those are, one is an opinion based on news, the other is delivering news, hosting people who have opinions.
mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I just wanted you to not be like selling out to the fear mongering that was happening strictly for votes. Nobody's talking about it anymore. So nobody really was scared of them. They weren't coming to hurt anybody, and we all knew that. I just was hoping that you were better than that, and that you were more on the lines of not governmental, but more religious, not non-secular.
I have I have very little interest in the government because I have no faith in the government. The government is corrupt because they are all for man and not for God. When they quit putting God first is when they started putting their faith in man first. You understand what I mean?
No, I do, but then I think you went a little deeper on that. But like, do you never see a doctor? You will never see a doctor at all.
I don't see a doctor unless I absolutely have to, and it's like an emergency situation. But no, I don't go to see a regular doctor. I take faith in God to heal me, and I go with a more um, herbal approach
Well,
to
I
things.
gotta say, just in all fairness, I
Uh huh.
never went to the doctor about my foot, and it is better now. Now,
Right.
it whether that was the oil, time, whatever, who knows? But I wanted to get that out front first before I continue to talk about that. But yeah, I never went to the doctor about it. I didn't have a choice. Not I wasn't gonna be there was no time for me to go. So but yeah, it's gotten better now. My other foot hurts, but it's a different kind of deal. So I don't know. Maybe that was a trade off. But my point
Well,
was that, like, I mean, man, some people die because they can't get someone to donate a kidney, in time, or a liver in time. And, like, you don't think God would make that possible, right? Like, you don't think that's what God is intending.
no, no. God intends on us to live.
But those people have to count on medicine.
Right, and I understand that, but at the same time, there's a natural approach to it. In my personal opinion, there's a natural approach to it, and if I get myself in, if I end up becoming in a situation where I am in that particular situation, I would trust in God to heal me. I would trust in God to take care of me over any man with a chemistry lab any day.
So if you're sick or you're terminally ill, you're not going to try to look up your doctor that they're going to recommend for you. Like when Amber has to have a knee surgery, she researches the doctor
I
that
go to
she's
my
going to get.
when I'm terminal if when I get terminally ill, if that ever happens, I'll go to my doctor, and that consists of getting on my knees and praying to God to heal me because I don't have faith in man. I have faith in God.
All right, well that brings me to the next thing, because you were sort of upset in that video. Um, like, for instance, you said I challenged you people to go help somebody without expecting something back in return, and only like three of you responded, and there were like literally hundreds of people saw the video. And so I wondered, because you also said in the same video how it took time for you to be able to see your way to where you are, and that if you look back at your own YouTube career, you can see where I was, within a year ago. And whether or not you weren't thinking about other people maybe being at that same stage in their development, like they weren't ready to take the full dive, like you weren't ready to take the full dive 6 months ago.
No, no, I am now, but it's only because of how far my faith has gone.
But what about the people who you were yelling at?
I wasn't yelling at anybody.
Well, when you were crying and saying that they're not going to go to heaven.
When I was crying and saying that they're not going to heaven, what was I talking about when I said that?
Well, this is what I'm saying. It was the culmination of all the fear mongering that had went on in that whole video, and you were saying essentially that the people who were listening, some of them who were watching, weren't taking up your advice and helping other people and doing what you said to do, and maybe they weren't as far along in their faith as you were, and you were holding them responsible with your tears while at the same time asking for their understanding that it took you so long.
I think you misunderstood that.
Okay, I might have.
No, I wasn't holding anybody responsible for my tears, as you put it. I was simply saying that we as people need to put our faith in God and understand that God can heal all things. It's through His stripes that we are healed. It is through the blood of Jesus and the blood that He had shed for us, in which we are able to be healed. It's through Christ Jesus we can do anything, and He can do anything through us.
And do you believe that he died on that cross that day for all of us to be, for our sins, so that whosoever believed in him shall not perish but have everlasting life?
With all my heart, I do.
So, but at the same time, if someone believes in him and then, let's say, commits some horrible sin, do you go back
Right?
to is it like Candyland? Do you slide back to the beginning? You know what I mean? Do you got to start over? You got to get resaved? What's up with that?
Okay, these are bouncing around on me, but if you, I don't know how to explain what you're saying.
All
You're
right, like,
saying,
because people, like, there have been people who have been preachers and or priests or whatever, and they've gotten like busted for hurting children in a sexual manner. Clearly, they were well on their way to heaven until they started messing with
okay,
children. So, what?
okay, wait a minute. Now, if they had the spirit within them to be messing with children and everything, were they clearly on their path to heaven, or were they people that were hold on. Yeah, if they were truly on the righteous path, they would have never committed something like that.
Okay,
Because when you accept Jesus into your heart completely, He starts to wash away those sins, and He starts to wash away those desires for them sins.
I'm just saying, like, how that looks for the other priests and preachers in the world, right? You know what I mean? That's not a good look.
Uh,
That's not a good look for them, right?
no, it's not.
So, like, you could agree then that a few bad MS-13 people in a group of mostly innocent migrants might make the whole bunch look bad.
Oh yeah, they definitely would let the whole bunch look bad. But if you look
Yeah.
into it, what I am saying though is the fact that we should see the fact that there are people in there that aren't there for the right reasons and are trying to get across for other reasons. Now, what are
Yeah,
those
but if
reasons?
they
What are
walk right up to our borders and say, "Here I am," then that's the stupidest thing they could do. You know what I mean?
right? They were
So
trying to
you,
cross
well, I mean,
other
with all the attention this caravan's getting, you think anybody's gonna branch off and just sneak on over?
Well, yeah, they have tried to sneak over. There's already been plenty of footage. There was a video that was released not long ago, a couple days ago, matter of fact, of over 1,000 of them that tried to storm the wall at one time. And when they caught them, they were all up at the top of the
Yeah.
wall trying to cross over. Now,
All
how is
right,
that
man.
people?
I'll just let you have that one. I haven't verified whether that's where that is, but let's just say that happened. That does happen. I'm not saying people don't try to jump over the fucking border. They definitely do. I'm saying it's not as it's a net zero as far as our immigration policies are concerned.
No matter which way it goes, and I'm impartial to either which way, but no matter which way it goes, You know, he's got that many troops down there to stop this caravan. He's got that much of a
Yeah, all
caravan.
those people there for Thanksgiving, they're all missing Thanksgiving and Christmas with their kids so they can meet a bunch of people fleeing terrorism.
Okay, right? Uh, but it's the ones that are in there that have other agendas that we should
They're
keep
not
an
just
eye
going
on.
to slip through, Tommy. Zane Green can't fucking hardly get back and forth across the border, and that dude doesn't have any political agendas. So they're not just going to come bouncing back and forth at their MS-13. That doesn't happen. This is Donald Trump's border. You think they're just going to come bouncing back and forth? MS-13 just going to come, woo, this is fun. There's no way in hell. This is Donald Trump's border, man.
So what you're saying, is all of them that are coming over here
I'm
are
saying that,
coming over.
that they'll all tail off, and by the time they get to our border, it'll be just the ones seeking asylum like it was to begin with.
Okay.
You know, he's talking about taking away habeas corpus. He's talking about suspending habeas corpus for to be able to arrest these people without a
Let me
chance to
ask
see
you
a
something.
judge.
Let me ask you something. Are we trying to debate what exactly every person in the caravan is up to? Are we
No,
trying?
I'm trying to debate that the last caravan that showed up had zero terrorists and zero MS-13 members, and it was just 5 months ago, and it's the same exact thing, and they haven't talked about it since the election because it was just an election ploy. It was
Okay.
just something to get people stirred up about. It really isn't a
Right.
big thing. It's not a big deal.
I'm guessing the idea of them going over there and bombing Israel is also a political propaganda.
Who's bombing Israel?
You don't know about that either?
Is it the caravan? Is the caravan bombing Israel?
Iran?
Oh, Iran is bombing Israel.
Uh huh.
Wow, that has nothing to do with the
Being
caravan.
said in the Bible. Things that are being told that were talked about in the Bible. What is it? What does it say about nations rising against nations?
Hmm. I don't know,
Those are
man,
in the
but you also were saying that, our
developed.
allies were planting people into the caravan. Like, there was definitely
Oh
some
yeah.
fear mongering going on in your caravan talk. But now
So
you're talking
there's a
about Iran
you
bombing Israel.
there's a lot of fear mongering going on with all of it, and that is exactly the point. Why would the government allow all of this to happen the way it is now? And now, not only because of this, he has discredited every single newscast because they post things of what
Why
we
don't we
see
do
because
this? Since this is always the argument, why don't we do this? Why don't we spend the rest of the time only talking about homeless veterans in the United States? Let's only give the rest of the chat attention to homeless veterans in the U.S.
okay,
All right, it's Veterans Day, and they deserve it. So the rest of this chat is about homeless veterans in the United States. What can we do
why
about
is
them?
for homeless veterans?
What can we do? And I know you've done some things.
What can we do? Yeah, why is there so many homeless veterans? Why is it a man can sign away his life and go and fight for a country to go fight a war that doesn't even pertain to them, all because all